Welcome to A Matter of Music. I'm Dawn Wisner-Johnson.
And I'm Beth Wisner-Jahnsen.
And you are listening to A Matter of Music. We're here to provide a unique space for musicians to gather tools, ideas, and education to help master this crazy business of music.
So today we are happy to have Chris Ryan. He is a composer, singer-songwriter. He has television placements, and we're going to go kind of into his journey through all of that. First, I'm going to give a very short bio of him. Full disclosure, he's my nephew. He's Dawn's son.
That's me.
So I don't know if that's the only reason he's here, but it was easy to get him to come. So Chris started playing guitar when he was, were you 12?
I was 10, but
10? Okay. He asked.
I got more serious probably when I was like 11 or 12.
You were pretty serious I remember you like fell asleep with the thing in your hand, but about 12 you started really kind of focusing. Yeah.
I was always into it from 10 on. I remember when somebody showed me different tunings. When I discovered drop D, I like played guitar for a year straight, like every day, because I was like, oh, now I know how to make my guitar sound like the things I listen to.
I think I remember coming over to your house and you were like, Beth.
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he taught himself to play guitar by listening, by figuring that kind of stuff out, hanging around musicians, all sorts of things, YouTube and stuff like that. And he also taught himself to play drums. And when he was 15, he got asked by a hardcore band.
A local band. That one right there. To play bass on their U.S. tour. He didn't know how to play bass. The band that was before Sleeping Giant.
Oh, it was.
A lot of the members came from there.
That's right. I always think it was Sleeping Giant.
It was Death Star.
Death Star.
Yep.
And they got sued for the name.
Yeah, because they put those X's there.
XDeathstarX.
I was not a bass player, no. But it's it was an easy transition, I guess, for that style of music, I would say. I am not a bass player. Currently, still not a bass player.
You're still not a bass player, is what you would say.
Still not a bass player. Yeah.
But you managed that, and they knew you could because they had watched.
I definitely managed it. Maybe not well, but I managed it.
But I also remember on that tour, you guys arrived in Florida. I think it was your first show. You did a show, and I got a call from somebody, might have been you or somebody. They weren't happy with how the fill-in drummer was doing, and you said, "I'm playing drums tonight for the show."
Well, I'll try to make this story quick. We had a fill-in drummer who was meeting us out there. I'm not gonna say from which band, but because he was a really good drummer, but he was like, but basically this guy said, "Oh yeah," we contacted him and said, "Could you can you fill in on drums for the first 2 weeks of the tour, because our drummer had some other obligation and he was going to meet us halfway into the tour." It was about, I don't know, a month and a half long, the tour. And we got out there and played and got to the first show in Florida. The first show was in Florida, so we had to drive all the way across the United States. And we get there, and basically he came out and was like, yeah, I didn't have a lot of time to go over your set, and I think I might know like 3 songs.
Oh no.
And that was kind of the first that we heard of it. So we attempted that, and it didn't go well. So, yeah. So we went to a Guitar Center that day because I broke a bass string or something. It wasn't my bass. Somebody else was buying the bass strings because it wasn't mine. Yeah. So I sat down in the drum department on a V drum kit, and I started going over the set because I was, even back then I wouldn't have really considered myself a drummer even. I was a guitar player, but they didn't need a guitar player. They needed everything else. So I sat down at the V drum kit and was going over it. And I wasn't thinking that I could play the drums for it. I was just like, oh, well, I know the music.
Oh, they hadn't asked you yet?
No.
Oh.
And I was sitting there going over it, and I don't remember who it was, but one of the guys in the band was watching me, and he was watching me play. And well, I didn't have headphones on. It was a live V drum kit, so he could hear it, and he was like, well, you may not be like a drummer, but you know the music, and that's better than someone who doesn't know the music. And so that's sort of where it went. And I'm not gonna lie to you, the first few shows were rough. I'd never played drums for a band ever.
Welcome to the
Play
world
with other
of
people,
hardcore.
right?
Yeah. And that band was pretty popular at the time. So, you know, we ranged from playing venues for about 200 people, and then there was venues that were sold out. There was 500, 600 people in, you know, small rooms. So yeah, I sat in the van and went over the songs with Eric, and on my lap with a pair of drumsticks. And especially after the first couple shows didn't go well, he was like, all right, we're gonna like really drill into this. And we did. And then by the time we got about a weekend, because I ended up having to do that for about 2 weeks, about the last week I felt pretty good about it. But you know, like I said, I had never played drums in a band. I hadn't played in very many bands. I was 15. So but
if only every musician could have that kind of initiation to the world of live music.
Being thrown in the deep end without knowing how to swim?
Right.
Yeah, that was trial by fire.
Yeah.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
Okay, so as you were out there missing your girlfriend, because how long was that tour?
About a month and a half.
Yeah, so 6 weeks, 15-year-old, girlfriend at home. You were kind of having it rough. I remember I met you at a festival. Your mom and I were at a festival, and you were like, take me home.
I don't know if my attitude was quite that. I was enjoying it.
You weren't serious.
No, it was I was explaining this to someone the other day. It's that feeling of like driving across the country and not knowing what is next is I was so excited. Like not knowing, like knowing in my head what's, you know, east of Texas. That's as far as I've been. Like, yeah, I know it's there, but what does it look like? And outside of movies and television and what you read, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a really cool feeling for me.
Right.
And I remember just being like so excited to see what all of these places were like. I still have that with other parts of the world, but
Well, you've traveled to every state now, right?
Yeah.
Gave you a lot of things, and that was. But so I just want to throw in. You turned 16 on the road at a music festival.
I turned 16 in Denver. Almost. We were one show away from coming home. It was right after that music festival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and the reason Beth and I went out, because my band in the 80s, my techno band, had played this festival, and so it was like, wait a minute. My son is going to play this festival. We have to go. So
kind of
we
bookending.
went. It was quite an exciting time. Yeah.
So you're out there. You're playing bass, drums, travel, the whole thing. It's exciting, but you're missing your girlfriend, and you started writing songs, not hardcore songs.
No, I kind of started doing that when I got back home.
Okay.
My thought back then was, this is awesome. This is what I wanted to do somehow, some way. And I knew that I could tour in hardcore bands, maybe not make a lot of money doing it, but I knew that I could have fun doing it. And at first I was like, well, how do I get into this music thing more seriously? And that's what started me down this road, was like, okay, well, I'm going to start writing music. And of course, yeah, I had some content on my mind, being a 15-year-old or 16-year-old away from home for a month and a half or whatever. And that's
With
sort
a
of
bunch
where
smelly grown men, right?
yeah, yep. So that's sort of where my head was at with it. Was like, okay, if I want to have like a longevity out of this, I need to move into this other realm of music that I'm interested in as well, and always be able to do both. But it definitely started with the hardcore and metal music.
Yeah. You actually remember thinking that when you were 16?
Yes.
He's smarter than I don't know how you did it, Don, but he's
I don't think I was thinking that way at 16, but yeah. Okay.
No, I remember thinking that for sure.
Nice. Okay.
well, it worked out because
Yeah.
here you are. By 16, you were writing. You started writing more songs. Your mom and I heard them, and I think you had, what was your first EP about? Was it 5 or 6 songs?
5 or 6. Yeah, I'd have to go look.
We helped Chris get with the producer and do his first EP at 16.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so then you had some stuff under your belt. You had some stuff recorded, and then so what did you do at that point? What were you performing? What were you? I mean,
Yeah,
you said you wanted to do this to make a living. What were you thinking in your head, and what did you do from there?
Well, first off, I'll say yes, I wanted to perform. I obviously was performing before I recorded anything. Just started with open mics and stuff. And I remember the first time that I did an open mic, a bunch of friends came, and man, I think that probably that music festival Cornerstone was the most people I had played in front of. There's probably like 1,000 people at our set, and playing an acoustic set in front of 20 people was the most terrifying thing that I had ever done. For sure.
Of your own original music.
Yes. Yeah. It was so much easier to get on stage with a band where your music is loud, people are moving around. I remember I walked away from that first show going, do they like it? How do I know? They're not kicking people. They're not kicking each other. Or do they smile and nod? I don't know. Are they clapping because they feel like they need to? I don't know.
Yeah. Performing alone can be terrifying, can it? Yeah.
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 So, okay. So then you decided something.
That album was released. And
it took a little while for that album to get released.
Yeah, didn't it?
Eventually. Yeah, because I think that its official release was that show at Best Buy 2009, but it had already been pressed
right
before that. But we considered that the release in 2009. Right. So yeah.
Sorry, I keep interrupting. We the producer that we hired to do Chris's record had already he was someone who was writing for television that had started writing because him and I started a relationship, and he was in another band. But we should name him because
a working relationship.
We will probably interview him at some point, although he doesn't know. But Josh Auer, because I want you, Chris, to tell me, because you've alluded to it sometimes. How hard did Josh push you?
It was. I mean, if I would look back on it, I'd probably say like not super hard. But from my perception of it, I was not a professional yet. And so going into the studio with a professional was hard, because you think that you have practiced and you think that you're good, and then the first time you go to record something in a professional setting, you're just like, oh my God, I suck. I'm horrible. I can't play guitar. I can't sing.
I remember driving back with you on a few of those sessions. I just had to really give him a pep talk, because and it wasn't Josh, and it was really good. You've told me you're so glad he pushed you.
Oh yeah, no, it was invaluable, and he helped with like other producers that I worked with. That I haven't worked with a large amount of producers, but like even with future hardcore bands that I was in, that I got used to the producers being hard on me. you know, if a drum track wasn't right, I was like, okay, like, you know, I responded better to that actually than somebody trying to like tiptoe around it and, you know, trying to make it sound better than it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Josh was very key in that first record. So
yeah, I remember driving home from Orange County and like passing out because I was so exhausted, which I don't normally do. Don't fall asleep in cars
You
unless
weren't
I'm
driving when you passed out. I just want to make that perfectly clear.
No. I was I was like 16 or 17. She was driving me down there to do that.
Yeah.
Back then.
Okay, so your EP's done, and then what's your next step? What'd you do from there?
Back then, Best Buy was doing this like artist, I don't know what you would call it. They were doing like like a local artist spotlight promotion thing.
They had like a little mini Guitar Center kind of in there.
Yeah. And this guy was handing out flyers for local stuff, and I took one, and I had an album in the car, and I don't remember if I was with my mom or not.
Yes.
But I was like, oh, well, I'll take this, and you can, I'll give you I have an EP, and it was wrapped in everything. So I gave it to him, and he was like, oh, this looks like professional or whatever. I was like, yeah, just let me know what you think. Because I was supposed to contact him, but I kind of didn't want to contact him unless he liked it. And about a day later, he called me or emailed me and was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like, I would love for you to do, like, at first it was just to get the album in Best Buy, but then he came up with the whole idea of having like a CD release show for it and doing that whole thing. So that was all his idea, which was cool. We got like a pretty good amount of people out to that level.
I believe I was telling that story on another time. We Take Two Productions ended up doing the first show there with you, and it was kind of cool. We're telling that story, I think, because that's how we ended up managing another band. A bunch of them came and they were like, hey, can you help us too? So, you know, that was, but yeah, I had forgotten, Chris, that you went back in with your CD.
It was really fun because of I got to have like a bunch of friends come out, and there was like a formal place to like do a release for the album, but it was kind of funny, people going in to like buy a toaster and there's like a show going on in the middle of the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. So the EP, what happened next? Beth and I were beginning to shop music out. We did a deal with ABC Television for some music, and yours was in there along with another artist that we had recorded. Beth and I.
We had probably Don, 15
artists
or so
at ABC Television, and the two young artists that we produced the records for were our first placements. Chris
was our very first placement.
He was, and
nobody knew that he was Don's son.
No, I had been working on and off at ABC. I wasn't at the time, but none of the Music Soups knew because our last names. He was going by Chris Ryan, so they didn't know. We were undercover, but that was nice to get the first placement with Chris. So what happened after that, Chris?
I was focusing on playing shows back then, doing as much local stuff. I had like a little band that I played with at that point. I had a bass player and a guitar player and drummer. So that was that's kind of what I was focusing on. We went on
shifted? What shifted?
What shifted for you? What did you, because you ended up trying to get into the library at ABC that had.
What in your brain, because before when you were 15, you had I need to do something in order to keep doing this. So was there something?
Well, back then I thought that having like a solo career would be the way to do it and try to like grow that. I'd seen, examples of that back then on MySpace and people putting music up, and that's what I was obsessed with, like all the way until MySpace kind of went away, was getting plays and how many you get a day and posting things like often. I was a lot better at marketing back then.
MySpace. I miss MySpace.
Yeah, it was simple. It was very simple. But yeah, we did one tour out to a music festival in Illinois and then back. And then I got back, and pretty much probably only a year later, because that was all 2009, 2010 or 11, I was thinking, well, back up. My mom had been working at this music library, ABC Music Library, right?
ABC Television, yes.
Yeah. So I had started to think like, well, that'd be cool if I could get music into that library. So I submitted some songs.
After your mom had left already.
Yeah, I had left there.
Oh yeah, she had left in 2007.
Otherwise,
right?
you would have been in.
Yeah. Yeah. You left in 2007, right?
I did.
Okay.
And I think it was, yeah.
So
about 3 years later.
So the first time I submitted something was probably 2010. And I submitted a couple songs, and I got emails back that were kind of like, oh, this is cute. That's cool, I guess. Keep going, you know, basically like, oh, you're progressing, like kind of like a pat on the back, which was good, but no like, oh, would you like to sell this song or write for us or anything like that?
Also, the director there had known you since you were
yeah,
kid.
Since I was little. So she
probably
was
had that idea of you in your head too.
Yeah. So I sent a couple, and was hoping to get a response similar to that, like, oh, well, this is great or whatever, but it was more like, okay, like you're in the right direction. So I wrote a song, and I didn't want to send this again. I didn't want to send this song again cold like I had. So I emailed the director and said, would it be possible if I could have a meeting with you? And she said yes. So I brought my guitar, and we just started talking a little bit, and I didn't want to be pushy, but I brought it, and she was like, oh, I see that you brought a guitar. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I was going for. So, and I was like, yeah, I'll play you a song if that's okay. And she said, yeah, that would be great. And I played her this song. And she said, wow, that's great. Would you be willing to sell that? And I was like, yes, that's what I was looking for. That's what I was looking for from those emails. So that's how it all started. And for a time, that was probably 2011.
Yeah,
I would say. So. And so I was, that was the beginning of it all for
right.
that.
I remembered this, and I don't know if you do, Chris, maybe because she had told me what she was going to do, but she sent this song after you went and produced it, sent it to her. She sent it off to a couple of music soups that I also knew, but they didn't know who you were.
That's what it was. I do forget that part. She sent it off to see if they were even interested.
Right.
But she did ask me in that meeting if I was willing to sell it. So I think that was her saying, okay, if you're willing to sell this, I'll go try. So she did send it to a couple of the soap opera music supervisors, and they said, yeah, this sounds great. We would love to have this song. So
right. And just let me say, because from being in there, I knew some of the people that were writing some of the songs, because the song library had started a few years before. A lot of them were composers. They were older composers who had been writing.
You should probably make a clear statement between what you mean, the song library.
Oh, and an instrumental library.
Yeah, because they had two.
When I had started at ABC, it was an instrumental library. We moved it into starting another library for songs, and our biggest clients for the songs were the three soaps at ABC, All My Children, One Life to Live, and General Hospital. And they needed music, source music is what we call it, in their cafes, and that they play on jukeboxes and things like that. And so a lot of the composers were writing those songs, and they also needed montage songs. And I think one of the things they clued in on Chris was he had a younger sound. And so it just happened to be that they really wanted those guys. And then it was produced really well. And, you know, Chris.
Well, that's the other thing, is that song that I played here was not recorded yet.
Yes, I remember.
So we did that. So we didn't know if they would buy it yet, but we recorded it on what is called spec. We were just, hopefully they'll take this And once we turned in the final is when it got approved. So there was all these steps along the way, but that meeting was what kind of started it all.
So it wasn't walk into her office, play the song, and walk out with a check?
No. It was probably a month or longer.
Longer, maybe, yeah.
Probably longer, yeah.
Yeah.
But I did know that once I got my foot in the door that would be kind of where I could make a little bit of money. I was touring with another band at this time, probably for 2 or 3 years. I was doing that. So when I was home, I would work on this music, and then I would go tour with them. And I would play acoustic shows here and there, but kind of between those two things, that sort of started falling by the wayside, and it started just being producing music and writing music for television.
And just to be clear, in this in-house television library, they would pay you upfront for a song.
Buy it outright.
Buy it from you. And so they would own the publishing side. You still obviously keep your writers. So if that was played on television, you're going to be making some royalties. So you knew that this deal, if you could write some songs that would work for them, you knew that was a good deal.
Yeah.
A lot of times in the industry, we talk about not selling your publishing if you're an independent artist, but you already knew from knowing about this library that it was going to be used, and you would get paid.
Well, do you remember? Do you know the very next song that I did for them?
I can't remember.
Was "O Come Emmanuel."
Oh, it was the public domain.
It was a cover.
Yep, because they needed public domain Christmas music for episodes of these soap operas. And they asked all the songwriters to do that. So the very next one that I did was "O Come Emmanuel."
That's right. That's right. And you do get a little bit of writers. That's public domain, but because that's your arrangement, you get paid a small portion on those, right? So yeah. So what I was saying about the publishing, you didn't blink at that, did you, Chris?
No.
You were ready to go. Deal. Yeah.
I was also probably used to it from what I knew about that library, because I had heard you explain it.
Right.
Well, at the time, that library was paying a pretty good fee for the song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For the song. Right.
And knowing it would be used.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is knowing that they still don't buy music unless it will get used in some capacity, as opposed to putting it in a black hole of a gigantic music library.
Like a production
music
library.
Yeah, that you don't have like a personal contact with. Like, that is sometimes dangerous if you're attached to that song. If it means nothing to you and you want to sell it, that's up to you. But if you expect it to do something and you don't have a clear path to where it's going, that is always a scary thing.
Right.
So that leads me to my question, how did you transition from being a songwriter where you're writing from your emotions, your experiences and all that, into writing, the mindset of knowing you're going to sell it, and also taking direction requests that they would give you? How was that transition for you? Was it easy? Was it hard?
It was difficult probably for the first year or so. And then there's still times where it's not always 100% easy, but it's way easier than it used to be. And yeah, you
got used to that process.
Yeah, I look at writing lyrics for something that I know I want to keep very differently than how I look at writing lyrics for something for television.
Speaking of that, yeah, what is it? What kind of lyrics did they want?
It's so hard to explain, kind of, but it's like vague, not super directed, like conveying a emotion, but one that could almost be like, could go lots of ways. It's strange when you're writing for something that's like one that they want to use this song for a lot of different things. So you don't want the lyrics to point you hard in any one direction unless they ask specifically for that, which does happen sometimes. Because it's background music a lot of times. And it's And a lot of music supervisors, from what I've seen and who I've worked with, they like the music to tell kind of what's going on. So if it's super pointed, yeah, they like that type of stuff in movies and certain shows. But then
television shows, right?
Yeah,
might really want a lyric to point to something. But with what you were doing, you were writing more for the background, and they wanted to use that over and over, which actually made more sense for you financially, right?
Yeah.
It could be used, over and over.
So how does that make more sense? What's the difference between, if you write something and they use it as a theme for a couple, or they use it very specifically versus background?
It can go either way. If that theme for that couple goes on for a long time and it got paid more because it was so much more prominent, or it was played over a montage, that pays different rate. Mm-hmm. So you make more money off of that. So if it goes on for a long time, you're making good money. But once that storyline with that couple ends, they will probably never play that song again. Or if they do, it'll be a long time.
In that specific show, right.
Yeah. So then you've lost the revenue from that song being played in the background for 5 years.
Right.
And they can put it in this library specifically, which is, is a network. The network owns it. They can put a hold on that song so other people can't use it.
Yes.
I guess they could. Yeah.
Yes,
they can. I remember I was at ABC for a few months and I remember being like, what?
Yes, they would, because that specific show wanted that for a theme for that song.
So explain, you ended up,
I was going to say one more thing about one of your songs real quick. One got used in Baby Daddy, the show.
Yeah.
And it was for a dance scene, and you still get emails today about that. But it was actually written for, I believe, General Hospital, and they also used it in a dance scene. You wrote that. Why did you write that the way you did? Is that the one that's in 3/4?
Yes.
Yes. Can you explain?
They asked for a cheesy love song, so I gave them one.
Okay. Don't you think it paid off?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just what it was
songwriter
to me.
Make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And 3/4, you've told me before, you feel like sometimes they get more use.
Really?
It seems like it.
It seems.
I don't know if it's all in my head. Could be, but
it might be all in their head.
Might be all in their head. Yeah. 3/4, 6/8.
Really?
Definitely seems like they like it more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost too broad of a statement, but I guess it kind of goes in waves. But right now I'm in a 3/4 wave.
Yeah.
So have you ever? So you get a contract from them, 2 songs, 3 songs, whatever it is, and they start telling you, we want this, we want this, we want this style of music. How does that direction? Do they give you sound-alikes? How does that work?
Yeah, sound-alikes, things that they would like to use, but they know they can't get. Yeah, sometimes like in a brief, they'll tell you, I've seen briefs that say no love songs, no happy lyrics, or energetic, hyper, or what's the probably the most used word in a music brief is ethereal. It needs to be ethereal, and we all chase what that means.
Because ethereal is by definition ethereal.
Yes. Yes. Hard to define.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, things like that.
Okay, so have you ever found yourself writing one of these and then you start to go, wait a minute, I kind of think that's something I want to keep? Yeah,
that's happened a couple times. Not too many times. It's happened a couple though. There's even times where it's not like I think that the song I'm writing is this big genius thing that I can't sell. It's more, I'll listen to it and go, wow, that kind of sounds like bands that I listened to when I grew up. I don't know if that'll get the most use that's another part of it, is like, I'll probably enjoy to keep that for myself more than it will monetarily benefit me if I sell it. So what's the point? You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a lot of times, to be honest, it does kind of end up being that more than anything else. Is like, you know, I grew up in the hardcore pop punk, whatever, emo scene. So when I start getting too far into like a band that I listen to a lot, and I go, oh, that sounds like a band that I listen to, I'm like, that's not what they asked me for. Like,
that's when your artist creeps back in a little bit.
Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, I'll enjoy owning this probably more than they'll enjoy putting this in the background of a show. Probably won't get used a super lot, you know?
Right.
Okay, so then they started asking you to write cues, not songs.
Yeah.
How did that, what was that experience like for you? Was that a good thing?
I liked it.
Instrumental cues? Yeah.
Yes. I liked doing instrumentals. I don't do very many of them these days, but it was fun for me to not have to write lyrics sometimes, and to be able to, now the producer I was working with might have a different answer to this, which you could interview him too. But I liked the instrumentals because it was nice to try to get all of the emotion out of just the music sometimes, and not have to write lyrics. And I could get into the studio and mess around with chord progressions, and we could start a song like that and kind of build it. A song, at least the types of songs that we were writing, don't really go like that. I need to have a finished song before I get in there, pretty much. Like, if I don't have a finished song, I probably have to have a writing session with my producer before I come in and record, because this is professional level stuff, and you need to be you need to have your tempo nailed down. You need to have your timing nailed down. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It flows so much better when you know that we're recording this at a professional level. So let's get everything nailed down. With instrumentals, it's just a little bit different, because it's 3 or 4 different segments, and you can kind of write it and get it going. You know, not all of the instrumentals had live drums on them. Most of them didn't. A lot of it was like pads, like keyboard pads, and there would be some type of like lead instrument. And it was kind of cool to get experience doing that. It was nice to do something different.
I see. Is it hard to convey an emotion through an instrumental, or do you find you can figure that out?
I don't think it is. You
don't? Okay.
No.
Yeah. It seems to me that might be more difficult, but
well, again, if they want you to be kind of ethereal, that might be easier without lyrics, right?
To me, I mean, you know, it's not nearly as simple as this, but you know, you have these chord progressions in your head where you go, oh, that's a sad chord progression. I mean, we can just all point that out just intuitively. I mean, even people that aren't super, you know, musically minded can be, oh, that sounds happy. Oh, that sounds sad.
Yeah.
And I know what key to start in to do that, as opposed to music has all kinds of things. You could have super happy chords over really melancholy lyrics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things going on between those two relationships.
What were some of the shows you were writing for instrumentals?
2020, Good Morning America. Those were the 2 big ones.
The Chew, right. What would you do?
The Chew, What Would You Do? Yeah.
So are when you're writing these and you get your, you know, contract, and then the music soups or the editors and things are giving you, you know, suggestions and things, like, how did that go with the back and forth between when you're giving them the first, not draft, when you're giving them the first
Mix
of it?
Yeah.
How did that go?
Yeah, that went well. It's different with everyone. Some people, you kind of know that you're going to go back and forth a couple times because they're particular, and there will be like an instrument in the track, usually in the background, where they go, oh, can you replace that with something else? Or sometimes the notes are as minor as like, oh, can you turn down the snare, and then we're good. But yeah, we definitely had things go back and forth. That sometimes it was add something. A lot of times it was less add something and more take things away. So.
And did you kind of figure out the what they were going to do before you did this for several years with them, so. Yeah,
after a while you start to know what to not put in songs for certain people and what to add for certain people, what they're looking for, an instrument that they're listening for or not listening for. So yeah, you definitely learn people a little bit more.
And did you ever know you're going to get a certain note from somebody, so you go ahead and put what they're going to ask you to remove, or you know what I mean? You leave something out or you add something in for them to, did you figure that out?
Yes. Yes.
We're laughing because we know you did that. You told us before.
Yeah. So, I just like the fact that you played the game.
So know they're going to say the snare's too loud, so you just you pump it up a little bit, and you'll know, okay, we're going to take it down.
Well, certain people, and I would never name a name.
Yeah.
Certain people, I feel like they almost never will take something on the first go. They have to have a note for it. So why not give them the note of the thing that I know they will say, as opposed to fixing that and then getting another note.
Right.
Because some people will just want to put their flavor on it.
Right.
And maybe that's their flavor.
Yeah.
So what's the timing as far as from the time you get the brief, what they're looking for? What was the timing? Now the library has changed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of morphed. It doesn't pay as well up front, but there's some things.
The simple answer is as soon as possible. The more complicated answer.
These days, about how fast is it for you? How does that go?
I can turn out like comfortably a song a week. And then we've had songs where we're doing about 2 a week. That's a little bit faster, but it's possible with if it's thought out well and the song is written and done.
Right. Can you divulge any production help with how you've done over the years? I know at one point they were paying pretty good, so you could send out, we all have some friends in Nashville who are really good at what they do. So you'd send some songs out for production after you got it to a point, right?
Yeah.
And these days you're not doing that as much. You might do the drums in-house and do it yourself.
The pay for the song has gone down,
came down on that, but
we do all kinds of things with drums. We'll program drums. We'll use old drums. We edit them. We move them around. I mean, anything that you can imagine, we've done.
Right.
For time and money. So, when you have a little bit of stuff like that to work with, you have a good drum program, and you don't let the tediousness of programming drums get to you, you can get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of money, like what kind of money would you make if you had like a minute? Can you even divulge at all? If you had a minute of a song on
played?
Yeah, on a placement on national.
For 100% of the writers?
Pardon?
For 100% of the writers?
Maybe for 100%. Yeah. What would a minute be? Maybe.
Daytime or
probably be like $500, right?
I think so.
Something around there.
5 to 7. Pardon?
Yeah.
Prime time.
Prime time would be more.
A little bit more.
Maybe like 7, 8. I don't know.
Right.
It's so different. The scale that they use to track all to like determine what all that's worth is so complicated.
Nobody
that
can
I
figure it
really
out.
don't know.
I don't think they know what it is, honestly.
And yeah, and if you guys can crack the code on that one, you might get a Nobel Prize.
I tried.
Yes, tried to crack that.
I'm not that smart though. I tried to do
Smart one too.
when I was at ABC and I had access to all the songwriters that we had there. I was thrilled when I found a song that was on CSAC, BMI, and ASCAP.
In other words, there were 3 writers.
3 writers that split it evenly.
Split evenly, right.
So I could go look at who was getting paid what. So I've tried to kind of figure out their system and
if somebody listening to this has information that I don't have on this, I would love a correction. But from what I understood, there is some type of credit system with music as well. So that determines what the royalty is paid as well.
Is that with ASCAP or BMI, Don, or is it both?
I don't remember.
Because he used to be with ASCAP, now he's with BMI. There is a credit system where the more it's played, the more it's worth.
Yeah, so the first time that I play that minute, it won't be the same as the 20th time. So that's another reason why it's complicated.
And then ASCAP.
Sure that BMI does that.
And I can never remember which one's which. And then ASCAP, one of them adds aggregate. So you play 20 seconds. If they come back to the same song and play 10, they add it together.
ASCAP adds it together.
And I remember hearing that, but like I said, if somebody has information that nullifies what I think I know, I'm totally open to that. But I remember hearing that explained to me before, so.
Right.
Yeah. We have figured out some things, but man, they keep it,
Yeah.
Yep.
So would you, when you're doing a song for a music library like that you're hired to do you need, and it's a song, so it has words. Do you need 1 vocal, 2 vocals, a female vocal, a male vocal? Do they pay you more for that? How does that work?
Yeah, sometimes they'll pay for a second version with a female vocalist. Not super often in my case. There's probably other songwriters that you can interview that had that happen a lot more than me. Yeah, like we had a song that was like prominently used on General Hospital, and they wanted some lyric changes, and so I had to re-record the vocal for those lyric changes.
Let's talk about that one. What happened with that song? You're talking about Nurse's Ball, aren't you?
Yeah, I got an email from the music supervisor of General Hospital telling me that he needed tabs or musical notation, I don't remember,
yes.
for the guitar, so that he could teach an actor how to play this song. And they were going to use it, and it was going to be played on camera, which is a big deal. That's like the most prominent usage that you can get. So it started off like that. So that was exciting because I knew that song was going to get used, and that is worth more money if it's used that way. So I was already excited about that. So we started sending emails back and forth, and I got him what he needed. And then I guess the writer for the scene was writing the scene, and they kept rewriting it a few times. And then it turned into, oh, well, we think it'd be easier if you came in and played the guitar.
For the strength you seek, with heavy burden life seems bleak. I hope that you can see what tired eyes made hazy. Is it clearer lately? This could be just what I need. This changes everything. Can't sleep, there's too much on my mind. Just think there's a safer place to find. I can't tell you what's to come. I can tell you one thing. can't sleep, there's too much on my mind. Just think there's a safer place to find. I can't tell you what's to come. I can tell you one thing. I can tell you one thing.
But also they wanted a rewrite of a verse.
Yeah, that's what I already said that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Well, because they were originally just going to have the two actors sing it.
They were originally just going to have the two actors do it.
But you're
the
trying
rewrite,
to get an actor to play guitar, so, you know.
yeah, and I didn't know, but it was like somebody playing in the background. So I was like, oh, well, maybe they'll just get another musician / actor. I don't know. But the rewrite kept going, and I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but basically it ended up being, well, would you like to just play the guitar on the show? And I was like, yeah, that's great. And then we kept going back and forth, and then it was, okay, how about you sing part of the song? We'll keep your original vocal, and then we'll let the actors sing the beginning of the song. And so it just kept turning into more and more of a thing. So
Had you ever been on camera before for a TV show?
no.
Okay, so what was that?
How about not to my knowledge? Yeah.
What was that experience like going in there? What?
It was that was a little intimidating, I guess. I was because I'm not an actor, and I had to go before going and filming it. We had to have a rehearsal, so I went to the lot at ABC and went over the scene with the writer in the room, with the music supervisor, and the two actors. So that was good, though, to be able to meet them before doing that. So
how was everyone on set and those actors? And
they were really nice.
it was a great experience, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did they like give you wardrobe and cut your hair and everything?
They did try to do wardrobe, but the day that I showed up, I had a friend who had been doing like extra work, and he had done some feature acting roles, and he told me, he said, make sure that you come as dressed as you can since you're not a regular, because then they won't have to, he was telling me that they'll like, just so that you don't have to deal with that, basically. And so I got there and they were like, oh, you're good to go. I was like, oh, yes.
Did they pay you extra when you wear your own clothes?
I believe they do.
I think
There's like some type of stipend.
Like if you wear your own clothes and they use them, then they pay you like a
They
budget.
have to pay you another. Yeah, there's so many rules.
Because my friend who told me that used to carry around tons and tons of clothes in his car, and he would get there and look at what people in wardrobe were doing, and he'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go put that on. I'm gonna go see if I have something that looks like that.
That makes total sense. I know who you're talking about.
You can wear your own clothes. Why wouldn't
do
you?
that? Right.
Especially if they're going to pay you to wear your own clothes, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember you also telling me, Chris, that music supervisor introduced you to the executive.
Yeah, executive producer. Yeah, and he was really cool. He actually at one point said, I think we were done already, and he said, this is give it up for Chris. He's the one who wrote this song that we're using today, and this is his first time doing this, so give it up for him. And they were being very gracious, and that was cool.
Right.
Yeah.
We've also talked about soap operas and how fast they are and how quick they are, and they get bagged on a lot, but man, they're some of the hardest working people in television.
Yeah.
They're there a long time, and it went fast, didn't it, recording it?
Yeah, it's easy to forget the details, but I don't know if we did more than like 3 takes.
Right.
And the takes were all from just different angles. So I don't remember multiple takes from any angle.
Right.
It was all just, all right, this angle, let's do it. Okay, run it again over here. Okay, run it again over here. All right, good, move on.
Right.
Like,
hey, when we post this on our YouTube channel, we'll post a link to that
to
that
episode.
clip from General Hospital, because that was a nice little payoff for you after writing for that library for a while.
But what happened to that song? Has it ever been used again?
Wow, that's a good question. I'd really have to go look. Probably
Really
not on General Hospital.
Yeah.
Probably not on General Hospital.
Right.
Unless they've, for some reason, had to reference back to that moment, which could happen, but probably won't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're currently writing for General Hospital still here and there, and what are your goals here? What else are you doing right now?
Trying to get music as many places as I can, always.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Trying to write more, have some personal stuff, I guess, to be able to shop out. Yeah, those are my goals.
Right. And how, from that 16-year-old to looking now, how do you feel about being in the music business? I don't know your answer.
I don't know my answer.
You don't? Okay.
No.
It's a hard business, isn't it?
It can be, but it's rewarding.
It is rewarding.
To be able to do something, and I just want to make it clear, I don't make a lot of money. I don't.
Chris
However,
makes on very little money, and
yeah.
he's purposeful in what he does.
However, I have told people over and over again that I'm happy. It's better to make little money as something that you like to do, for me personally, than to make more and be miserable. Which, I mean, that's sort of, I feel like that statement is unfair in a way, because it's like too much of one thing or the other. It's like too black and white. But there's a lot of people that don't like what they do, and I'm not one of them. Any struggle that I have within how I make money is not a big struggle, because I'm doing something that I like. Even if I get frustrated with it or whatever, it's easier to take those types of frustrations when you're doing something that you know that you like and something that you've always wanted to do. And to make any amount of money from music, I would consider myself lucky. And because there's people who would love to be making even half of what I make. You know what I mean? So you just gotta like always kind of remember that.
Right. And do you feel, I know I feel this way, we all have different views of the music industry, but don't you feel that even a few years ago we were wondering what opportunities would be there, but look at all of the content now going out in the world with Hulu and Netflix and digital. I mean, do you feel that there's a lot more content right now for music?
Yes.
You see that happening? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, I feel like money lost, and I think me and Beth probably differ on this in some way, which is okay. But I feel like money lost has to appear somewhere. You know what I mean? At some point. Maybe it won't be the level, and maybe it will still be a little bit lower, but like the opportunity, the chances of somebody getting their music in a show just from happenstance and not being an insider of any kind is more possible than it's ever been at any time. It used to be if you didn't have a record deal and you couldn't get in front of people, you didn't have a career. You didn't make money unless you were pegged as a songwriter only or something like that, but you were still beholden to a record label. That is how you made money. You had to rely on them. So it'll be interesting to see what the future holds.
Right. I like what you're saying, because artists can now produce their own music.
Yeah.
They can do this, you can find a good producer. If you're a songwriter, you can, not everybody likes networking, but even now in the age we're in lately, there's so many Zooms happening. People are out there networking, and you can find other people that want to do what you want to do. And I think that's good advice, Chris. I feel like you're right about it's one of the better times for independent artists.
Well, there's like a lot of there's a few like rap groups, like artists that are huge right now, and they met over the internet. They met because they all had a common interest, and like they would all meet up and like go live in a house together, and they met on the internet. They didn't meet in their own city and then decide to do that.
Thinking of a really scary movie.
But that's the same story that you get from these rock bands, but they happen to be living next to each other.
Right.
These people were like, oh, we all have this common interest. Let's all pool our money and go like move to where the action is. The same thing is happening. Even if the music industry looks different, the same thing is happening. And like groups like that are huge now.
Right.
From saying, hey, we're going to sit here and pool all our resources and like artistically like bounce stuff off of each other.
Right.
And like, so that type of stuff is still not gone. But I do think that if you grew up, that if you came up in a time that looked different than this, it's super discouraging to look at.
Well, when you and I disagree, it's usually over the perceived value of art.
Yeah.
That's where I find it a little disheartening, because, you know, yes, I grow up and you pay for something that, you know, you value.
It's disheartening for sure. I just wonder if there's a way to look at it completely different, where people are still making money. That's all.
You know, when Chance the Rapper came out and started giving his stuff for free, I'm like, what are you doing? You know, well, I'm not signing with the record company. I'm going to do this my way. And he did. There's 1,000 different ways to do something. And you have to decide, like you did at 15, you decided what your goal was. You didn't know exactly what that was going to be, but you have taken steps to make the life you want be the life you have. And that doesn't mean you have, you know, somebody might see that grand piano behind you and think, well, he's not living too shabbily. That's not his.
Holding it for a friend.
Yeah.
Chris definitely lives, you know, he lives where he wants, you know, he has that thing where he's like, this, how much value does this have and how much is it worth for my time? And, you know, that's something I see in your generation that is very valuable, is you guys.
But it does get better pretty much every year. So I can't complain about that. It gets better pretty much every year.
Right. But that has to do with your hard work too.
Yes.
No, that's true.
You've worked hard. Yeah. You've been persistent. Even now, you're trying to find other avenues and you're following those. And that's a lesson for anybody listening. And persistence, Beth and I always say, persistence is good. Be persistent even with me, because if I see an email every month, I'm going to know you're serious. And eventually I'm going to answer you. And, you know, Chris was persistent. He sent the emails. He went in because he had an opportunity to do that. And, you know, sometimes you feel like, I don't want to bother somebody, but if you want to be remembered and you want to get in, you might need to kind of push a little bit.
What's your advice on that, Christopher, as far as like annoying people and pushing in?
I don't know. I mean, I feel the same way still. I mean, but you do have to just push through it, and you need to ask direct questions. And
I remember, let me remind you.
It gets easier.
Yeah.
It does.
There were a few times when you weren't getting contracts from ABC, and I remember you trying to get a meeting and you got it and you went in and you walked out and you said, okay, I got 6 songs. That was something you knew, I have to go do this. And whether you wanted to or not, you did it and it paid off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't always easy. They weren't just continuously knocking on the door. You had to work at that.
No, well, I can say that, especially if you're already working for someone, you need to ask what you need from them, and ask if there's anything that you can do, and ask if there's something else I can try, and those types of things are important. is there, because people aren't just going to come up with opportunities for you. You have to preemptively ask, hey, like, I know I haven't done this, but can I try this? And like, that can open up a whole nother door if you nail it. But no matter what, you always like have to prove yourself.
Well, you also, in a contract, you do stuff on spec and
all the time. Yep. Especially, that happened with ABC multiple times, where it was something that they would say, oh, well, you haven't really ever done that style, so we're not going to pay you yet. So we would produce this whole song, write it, send it off, and just hope that they would buy it. And we got ones turned down, and we got ones not turned down. But as we went, we started getting less and less turned down. We started to realize why and how to conform to the other styles that we weren't comfortable with and things like that.
You're saying we, so I want to bring up your producer again. You have a good relationship with a producer that you've worked with over the years, and you both have worked together so long that you kind of know what they need and what they want. So that's important too, isn't it? To make good relationships and keep those moving, and
oh my gosh, yes.
Find people that are like-minded and that can work with you.
Yeah.
And when you start trying to branch out, sometimes you realize that person doesn't have even the work ethic that I need, or whatever. And so that can get discouraging. But once you find something like that, isn't it important to kind of keep that relationship?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very important.
You have your own studio now, and you've been, working on things, producing things, but that took a while for you to get there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
all investments of time and money.
Right. I'm trying to bring that up. Thank you for saying it that way. If you're listening out there and you're 16 or you're 30 and you're deciding this is what I'm going to do, it is an investment of time and money. That's a good, and these days you don't always have to spend a ton of money, but the time is very important, and to putting in the time for this. So.
Well, yeah, I can give you a professional studio setup and I can spend 30 grand on it. And if you don't know how to use it, or if you're not willing to take the time, then it's no good to you. It's a $30,000 paperweight. But yeah, I mean, I have to remind myself of that, so it's not like, I don't want it to be like, oh, I haven't figured out and it works all the time. It's like, no, you always run into things that are frustrating, and if you ask my producer, if you guys ever interview him, he'll tell you the same thing. When I don't know something and I call him, he goes, and he'll be like, oh, you do this, blah, blah, blah. And then he'll tell me a story of this frustrating time. And he's like, this is just 20 years of trial and error, and you're going through that right now.
Right. Right. So if you're all in it for the long haul, then stay tuned, because we will have more guests and more people. Chris, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Going through all of this and explaining how this works. I'm sure a lot of people, don't know how it might work to write for a network in-house library. So this is valuable information, and we appreciate you chiming in today. Is there any other valuable tidbits you might have, or
any last minute words of wisdom? I'm leaning in.
Last minute words of wisdom. Never cook bacon without a shirt on.
As the vegan.
Yeah, vegetarian, but yeah. So I never have to worry about that. But to all you other people out there.
Okay.
All right.
All right. There you go.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You've been listening to A Matter of Music, and we've had Chris Ryan on today. We want to say thank you, and please continue listening and check out the links below, and have a great day.
It's kind of funny how my eyes, so I don't have to look away. Blood runs heavy in your veins. I put out my hands to pull you from the undertow. You say the flood feels better anyway. In due time, peace will find you at your breaking. Settle down. The weight you shoulder is much too heavy. In due time, peace will find you at your breaking. Settle down. The weight you shoulder is much too heavy.